Hello there and a very warm welcome to another of Channels Beam on Channels Television. I am Victor Matthias. Now it is no longer news that the novel coronavirus has brought the world to its knees since its outbreak in Wuhan, China, causing over 1 billion people worldwide to be confined to smaller spaces and observing measures that will help in curbing the spread of the virus that has been declared a pandemic by the World Health Organization. But while these measures are put in place, scientists, virologists, and medical experts have been on their toes trying to find a cure to the virus. However, with technology as a pivotal part of this era, questions have been raised as to how it can be leveraged to stop the spread and ultimately find a cure to the virus. And these are questions that we will find answers to today on the program. But before we begin our inquest, let's see what made the social media trends in the past week.
With the virus detected in numerous persons in Nigeria returning home from countries described as high risk, Nigerians had to add their voices to the call for social distancing, self-isolation from returning citizens, and also showed massive support for the flight ban from high-risk countries and the closure of churches, schools, bars, as well as banning gatherings of more than 20 people to curb the spread of the virus. In celebration of Mother's Day, people happily tweeted about what mom said that has shaped and is still shaping their lives. They also celebrated and honored mothers, motherhood, maternal bonds, and influence of mothers in the society.
Well, joining us to find answers to those questions, we have first of all joining us via Google Plus Hangout, Oyindamola Awofisoye. He is a consultant in internal medicine with special interest in diabetes and cardiovascular medicine. He is also a global health scientist with a major in health metrics and is compassionate about quality in healthcare and clinical governance. Thank you for joining us on the program. And also, of course, we also have Olatunbosun Tijani, who he is a Nigerian entrepreneur and co-founder and CEO of Co-Creation Hub, a technology innovation center that provides a cushy nest for innovators and creatives solving pressing social problems in Africa. Thanks as well for joining us on the program.
Thanks, Victor.
You're welcome. We also have Bakre Lawal. He is a dentist, designer, and a public health risk communication specialist. He is working on improving the quality of care accessible to Africans through designs. One of his portfolio initiatives is Epid Alerts, where they use technology and communication for health security concerns. It's a pleasure to have you on the program as well, Bakre.
Thank you very much for having me.
And also joining us via Google Plus Hangout is Bamshai Victor. He is a Nigerian medical doctor, an author, and a social-political analyst who is dedicated to a life of service that will positively transform both local and global paradigms. Thanks as well for joining us on the program, Victor.
The pleasure is all mine.
Fantastic. Well, you viewers at home also can be a part of this conversation. Just join us using the Twitter handles at Channels TV, at Channels Beam, as well as Victor_MBIDI. You can also use the hashtags Channels Beam as well as Corona virus. But Bakre, let me begin this conversation with you. What do you think can be done by the tech community in Nigeria at this point in time to support the efforts of the government, that's also the NCDC, to contain the spread of coronavirus and also continue to keep some form of people online, informed and also help them get tested where there is that need to be for them to be tested?
Okay. In terms of the efforts that are currently in place, the NCC is leading the national response. And we have the presidential task force that is meant to bring in all of government into this response. So with all of government in the response, it means that we are going to have very good coordination. If the country is able to fulfill coordination, then we will be talking about the assets that are currently on ground for the response. At the moment, we know that we have laboratories that are testing, 4 of them across the country. And then we also have a few isolation centers that are able to bring in people that have been confirmed positive, and they're able to test them, able to treat them. We have also been able to train personnel in this area, ranging from the epidemiology to the laboratory to the case management, and in fact the coordination itself. The country has started the process of putting together public health emergency centers. We've been able to set up in a few states, and other states might be on the list. I don't have the exact number.
So before, let me just quickly come in there, Lawal. I mean, during the what's it called? During the Ebola situation, I mean, you set up this program, Epi Alerts, which we just actually, made mention of, to see how people can use that platform, to proffer solutions. Do we have anything of that nature at the moment from the tech community again?
What did you ask again, please?
Oh, I said in 2014, during the Ebola outbreak, you had this app where people proffered solutions, in terms of how we could curb the spread. Is there anything of that nature at the moment?
Absolutely. So Nigeria has been able to scale up, starting from the social media channels. So simple things like the social media channel and a website for a national public health institution, and a call center for a national public health institution. Those little things matter because they help to create a single point of contact. So for now, we don't need to use an Ebola alert or an EPID alert for the country. The country now has its own infrastructure for those little things. In addition, Nigeria has adopted a tool called SOMAS, which was developed out of some of the contact tracing technologies that we used during Ebola. And now we have SOMAS, which is currently running across the country. Now, the major component, let me quickly get to that, is the call center, as you can see now, is already being overwhelmed. Nigeria would not have set up a call center to receive maybe like 700 calls per day at its NCDC when there was no outbreak of this scale. And the reason is because there was no need for that. It would just be like waste of resources if we had set it up. Because maybe they were just receiving very few calls per day. But at the moment, as we can see, the need to scale that system is now a challenge. So how do you set up a system that can quickly expand its capacity to deal with that kind of national demand?
Okay, let me hold on, Bakri. Let me just quickly hear from Bosun. Bosun is joining us also, via Google Plus Hangout. Bosun, so I mean, he said he's pretty much spoken about some of the things that are being done at the moment. But also, I mean, I understand your hub is in partnership with the Lagos State Research, Center to come up with one of these measures to help cure the spread. What's going on at the moment? What has come out of that partnership? Let me also just hear from you. I mean, he's just made mention of some of those measures that have been put in place. But what more do you think can be done? What more technological measures do you think can be used at this moment to curb the spread of the coronavirus?
Thanks, Victor. I think, as I was saying earlier, the relationship with the Lagos State Research and Innovation Council is based off the back of what CCOM announced last week. I think, we've been looking at corona mostly in Nigeria and a few African countries from just the medical side of things, which I think the authorities are trying their best on. But there's a strong social, economic, and welfare element to these as well. If you look at all the countries in which this has been experienced at scale, you will find that the infrastructure that you need to support people. So testing is not actually the only way forward. People are testing, your contact tracing, but at the same time, the health system in itself is being overwhelmed. So people are being encouraged to self-isolate. And in the process of encouraging people to self-isolate, in the process of locking down, cities and country, you're going to need superior systems to actually support that. How do you help people find food? If people are being locked down in their homes, do we have a strong food value chain that can back that up? That's something we need to be thinking about. Businesses are going remote. How do you support businesses whose employees will be working from home to be able to continue to provide value and contribute to the economy? That's also going to become a major issue. But also think of people who may come down with basic things like malaria and the other problems that you normally have on a day-to-day basis. Because the system is being stretched, it's going to be difficult for these people to get support. So what we're doing with the Lagos State Research and Innovation Council is actually to try and see how we can build up the resilience level of a Lagos State for that matter, because it's beyond the.
So basically, you're saying we need to. Sorry, Boston. Basically, you're saying we need to look beyond just the measures of keeping people on lockdown, testing people, and asking them to self-isolate.
We need to come up with robust approaches. As much as that is going on, and we're investing in that, we need to start to model for a UK or Italy scenario. If we have to lock down, for instance, Rwanda is on partial lockdown.
Yeah.
If you have to get to that level, how do you support people to be able to live, to be able to survive?
All right,
so we
I
need
guess
to find this is not something that government alone can do. We need to encourage and support businesses to also step up and start to build systems or upgrade their systems to be able to support the society.
All right, quickly, let me also hear from Oyindamola. Oyindamola is joining us also via Google Plus from Abuja. Oyindamola, in your own perspective now, what more do you think should be done? Because now we're seeing that apparently it's going beyond just putting certain measures in place, using technology, but there are more. There is more. There's also the self-action that we need to take. But in your own perception, what should be done?
Well, I think there's a lot more that needs to be done. For example, in tracking sources of infection and in tracing, in contact tracing, I know that we need to find ways that we can leverage on technology that is using data from people's location. I'm sure we've all experienced it, that if you go to a certain location, Google can identify that, okay, you're at so place now. And by crowdsourcing such information, there's a way for technology to actually let us know that, okay, this person that we later found out as COVID-19 was actually in Wuse Market at this time, was around this call, and this number of people were likely around us but at the same time, and that can actually be leveraged on for contact tracing. And another issue is this, people not obeying quarantine or isolation orders like we've experienced in Nigeria, particularly certain individuals. And many things, again, can be considered IT-wise to try to make sure that we can monitor that people that are actually supposed to be in self-isolation are actually practicing such self-isolation. For example, GPS and geomapping can be utilized in some way. I'm not sure exactly how, but to make sure that if someone is meant to remain in his house, the guy really remains there. I know that some countries like Singapore has used wristbands that cannot be removed unless destroyed. That if the person leaves the house, basically they know that the person lives in the house. I think they call it geofencing or something like that.
Yeah, geofencing.
This could have actually tackled some of the problems we had, particularly in the last 1 or 2 weeks, because most of the cases and secondary cases we're having now are from people that actually either declined to be quarantined or did not actually stay in one place, whereas they were meant to have stayed in one place.
Let me just hold you there for a bit. Oyindamola, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll still come back to you, of course, to land and also get to hear from Victor Bamishaye, who is joining us from Poland, Lords, precisely. Please stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. We still have with us our panelists joining us from around the world. But just before we went on break, Oyindamola Awofishoye, who is joining us from Abuja, was actually trying to make a point. But let's just go back to him now and get to hear from him as he lands or as he concludes his statement. Oyindamola, please go ahead.
Talking about, we talked about the geotagging, the geofencing.
Geofencing, yeah. So quickly round up, please.
People observing quarantine. And of course, the other aspects that we're talking about was about my colleague, the tech person has talked about education, about shopping and making sure that people are okay while they're living in isolation and in a city under lockdown. But the other part is education, particularly for students who had to leave home, who had to leave school, and school is closed. We can think about, we should think about how to either ensure online learning or learning on TV, which some countries have implemented.
All right. Let me hold you there and quickly get to hear from Bamishai Victor. Victor, I mean, so much has been said about the now, but what about the future? I mean, just so we're not a reactionary when something else comes in the future. I mean, I'm hoping that this will also be a thing of the past in the very nearest time to come.
Thank you very much, Victor, for having me. I think this is a time for reflection again as a country. What is wrong with us having a good database where we know, where we can identify every member of the country? You see, dealing with epidemics or even pandemic or whatever it is, deals with identity management. So when we have a poor identity management, it's much harder, not only to track the number of cases, but also to prevent and also to give alternatives in terms of, like my brother was saying, in terms of schools, in terms of supplies, in terms of how do people maintain a self-isolation that we ask for. You see, we need to talk about this data management again. The National Identity Management Commission must do more, really. It's time we talk about census again, because epidemics come and go. Now it's coronavirus. Next year, we hope nothing comes, but you know, this is just what the world is about. Many epidemics come and go, but we must talk about identity management. Going forward, we must also talk about information dissemination. How much is our service providers helping? How much are they helping? You know, just where I live, if any emergency stuff is going to happen, I get a message from the service providers. They give me a message. So how can the government coordinate with these service providers?
Yeah, something of that nature here in Nigeria, right?
The community.
All right, thank you again. But let me also hear from Bakre. I mean, looking at the future, what do you think should be done? Quickly.
Okay, so yes, identity system is very important. There are so many silos of data in immigration, even in the Federal Ministry of Health, in NCDC, in primary healthcare. We need to make sure we coordinate those data quickly ahead of the future. And then also we need to make sure that government is properly linked. Linkage of government will ensure that, for instance, food shortage, military, we could work with agric and other parastatals of government to make sure that all of these things are properly, put in place ahead of this kind of experiences. There has always been several simulation, ahead of this kind of event. I know the NCDC has tried several times to simulate a potential global pandemic, but again, everyone that we have, we create a new experience and learning opportunity. My prayer is that this leaves us with a very huge experience, which we must take into the next phase of our country. Nigeria must not be caught unawares when it comes to this kind of thing. We have assets, we can deploy human capital, and even in terms of expertise.
Fantastic. I hope all of that is put in place, but let's also hear quickly from Bosun. Bosun, looking at the future, I'm made to understand that all of these things need to be put in place, but also, I mean, just looking at where you live now, what more do you think can be done?
Well, I think looking at the future and future with the kind of pandemic that we have on our hands at the moment, I think future is actually tomorrow. That's what we should be talking about, because this thing is still escalating. We don't know where it's going to be. The numbers in Nigeria, I think, was less than 5 or so last week. Today, we're talking about over 30. So our immediate concern should be, how do we build a nation that is resilient? That's what we need to start to think of, and that future is from tomorrow. How do we strengthen our food value chain, for instance? How do we strengthen our health value chain, for instance? How do we improve on education as well? I think what we're seeing today is an indication that even things like the broadband or internet access is no longer luxury. It's something that should become a right for every citizen. And
hopefully that will be a right, and also all those measures that you all have spoken about will be put in place. Like you said, the future is tomorrow, so hopefully all of that will be put in place before tomorrow. But I'd have to say thank you to you, Bosun Tijani, to Bakre Lawal, Bamishaye Victor, as well as Oyindamola Wofishoye. All of you joined us from various parts of the world using the Google Plus Hangout. But that's what we know so far about the coronavirus, but also just to give you more updates as to what is going on right now in the country. We have at the moment 36 total cases, with 33 of those active cases. 2 have been discharged, and sadly, 1 person has died from that from the coronavirus. Those are the slides, and that's the breakdown of where all of these has happened in Nigeria, rolling up on your screen. We also have the countries, of course. The country, Nigeria, has also banned other countries from, as they've been being listed as high-risk countries, and they've also, made these ban. Now they can't come into this country. We have these countries also. That's those countries scrolling on your screen. We have Iran, South Korea, Spain, Japan, France, Germany, USA, Norway, UK, Netherlands, Switzerland, China, Italy, Austria, and Sweden. Of course, Austria and Sweden were added to that list after the other 13 were announced on March the 8th. And that's where we are. We'll bring you the most viewed videos on our YouTube channel in the past week.
The video of APC National Chairman Adams Oshiomhole maintaining that his short givings have been forgiven by his party members, being this week's most viewed videos on our YouTube channel in the past week.
On my part, I've asked everyone, and they have accepted whatever they consider to be my own shortcomings. I asked for forgiveness, and they have forgiven. And whatever I consider to be anyone's shortcomings that irritated me, I have also forgiven. And this is the way it should be. It can only be abnormal when people know how to fight and they don't know how to settle.
It is followed in 4th place by that of a visit of the Kaduna State Governor Nasser El-Rufai to the deposed Emir of Kano, Muhammad Sanusi II, in Nasarawa State. Third place sees what is left of Abule Ado after an explosion that rocked the community, destroying buildings, schools, other property worth billions of naira. Second place is taken by the video of the visit of the deposed Emir of Kano's mother to where he was banished to in Awe, Nasarawa State, before a federal high court sitting in Abuja granted him leave to move freely.
Many Nigerians were...
One of the most viewed videos in the past week is that of Professor Maurice Iwu claiming that he may have found the cure to the novel coronavirus that has been declared a pandemic by the World Health Organization.
With the emergence of a novel coronavirus in 2019 as COVID-19, we had identified and patented a possible treatment back in 2015. It is very important that we must remain ahead of these emergent infections through research.
And that's the program. Thank you for watching. I'm Victor Matthias.